For me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you, I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I trust you, I love you, won't judge you.
What's going on? Sevelosity back with another reaction video in our series of reactions here. We are going to be talking about the NBA Conference Finals. We are going to briefly discuss the Mavericks versus the Warriors, and then we're going to go into a little bit more depth with the Heat versus Celtics because, let's be honest, no one wants to address the elephant in the room. But the Mavs versus the Warriors sucked. The matchups weren't good. We knew that Luka was going to be a one-man team against a multitude of talent on the Warriors. So it was a quick series. We all expected that, and we will talk about it briefly. Floor is yours.
Yeah, yeah. Again, like we clearly saw, like offensively, the Mavericks they didn't have like the firepower to go against them, and unlike the Phoenix Suns, the Warriors have reliable, consistent offensive prowess.
Yeah.
Um, and you could not count on Spencer Dinwiddie, coming off the bench with 30 points every night. It just wasn't going to work. I will say this in this series overall, and I'll just say in the Western Conference, I think Luka Doncic was the best player. Actually, I think overall in these playoffs, Luka was the best player in the playoffs,
I agree.
arguably. Yeah. Uh, I'm honestly gonna say I believe that Luka Doncic at this point, there's no more ifs, ands, or buts or like legacy protecting for like the older vets. Cause Luka, like he's cleared all of my boxes. Like we see the numbers he puts up statistically, but the thing he's been consistently doing it for the past couple of years, even in the playoffs, like just being so dominant. There's literally nothing more we can add from it offensively. Sure, we'd like to see the defense step up, but there are a lot of superstars in the league nowadays that are just offensive juggernauts. And Luca's offense is up there with the best of the best, the LeBron, Giannis, Kevin Durant. Um, I think at this point, I have Luca as a lock top 5 player in the NBA.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I do too. I think that it probably bumps out Jokic to 6.
Yeah.
I think
Uh,
that
at this point, it would just be unfair. We literally just be like legacy protecting like other people. Cause like literally, there's nothing else we can really add to him. I mean, if if we want to ask more of him, it would be to like be more be better conditioned and so. Cause we can clearly see that like he doesn't put energy on the defensive end. Part of it probably because he gets burned out too easily.
we don't ask for better conditions until we start judging players for injury because we'll have to do that first too.
Yeah.
As in, AKA LeBron, Kevin Durant. You know,
Well, all I know is LeBron was pretty healthy this year.
he was. And
Mm.
we're gonna have to have a discussion about Kevin Durant at some point. In
Mm.
general, because he
We'll save
deserves a
that.
spot in that top 5. Yeah, different day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just kind of looking through some of the stats here. Obviously, I like to mention some of the stuff. Most field goals attempted in the entire series.
Gonna take against Luca.
Yes, Luka had 118 shots. The second best was Steph Curry, who had 90 shots. So he took 30 shots more than anyone else on the court. Rightfully so, though. He also was sixth in field goal percentage. When you're taking that many shots, it's pretty damn impressive. Shot 41%, 42% if you round it up, 41.5. Talking about, though, points in general and the teams in general, I think that Luka's team kind of let him down a little bit. We got to see a better Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson
Yes.
was great the first series.
Phenomenal year. Just for him, I think it was a great year for him.
Yeah, and he was great the first series. Who they faced in the first series? The
Utah.
Jazz.
Yeah.
But then he was. I'm not gonna lie, he was pretty bad against the Suns. And I don't know if that was just because like Chris Paul had an answer for him. But either way, he played really good in the third series, even though it didn't really matter. Dinwiddie played pretty well. You saw that the team was starting to utilize Dinwiddie a little bit more as the playoffs went on. Finney Smith wasn't bad. I know Reggie Bullock had a horrific game where he was like I think 0 of 12 shooting one of the games. But he wasn't bad either. But they just need more help. We already know that. Steph and company did well. I would like to give a shout out to Andrew Wiggins, who is usually the third or fourth scorer, but he did have a good series.
He played very impressive defense on Luca too.
Yeah, I think that you know people are going to start to finally people are going to start appreciating Andrew Wiggins.
By people, he's talking about me. Wiggins played very well.
um,
Like he's in the perfect system, the perfect role, and he's a key piece for this team.
yeah,
Especially with the way Draymond, like he's older, he's not as impactful as before on both ends of the floor. Wiggins has been getting it done for them.
and I know people are going to take what I'm about to say completely wrong, but that was probably the perfect replacement you could have gotten for Kevin Durant. A, he was cheap. B, you needed more defense out of your team. You already had enough firepower, especially now knowing Jordan Poole is going to be very good. Um,
Hmm. And that's
he,
a guy to attack the basket with his explosiveness.
yeah, he's one of the most unselfish basketball players. He is a somewhat
But
defense and passing first guy, which he wasn't always that, but
yeah,
he understood his role more than most people do in the NBA. So good for him. And this has been
phenomenal
a big step
athlete
for his career.
overall.
And this is a big step for him to get that money in the next contract. So
Let's hope that money comes with motivation. But
yeah,
mhm.
everyone's different. So we'll see. Time will tell. Good for them though. Let's move on to the next series. We expected the Warriors to be there. I think I said I expected the Warriors to be in the finals at the start. Um, Time to talk about Miami.
Everyone, I'm sure Ev knows, seeing the way it went down, see my boys lose, it really broke my heart. But before I really cut it out, I just want to ask Ev if he agrees with this. That was the best series in the whole postseason. Boston versus Miami. Would you agree that was the best series in the whole postseason, especially considering how it ended in a game 7 and how close it was?
Margin wise, yes. The
Okay.
only thing I would argue, the only series that I would say is close is
Mhm.
just because there's two that come to the top of my head, and that's the Grizzlies versus the Warriors because just there was a lot of animosity between the two teams, and it was kind of young
Yeah,
versus old, and I really liked that,
yeah,
and it was close, and they match
yeah.
up well, and even the Grizzlies versus the Timberwolves I thought was a really good series because they were fighting back and forth, and you had Pat Bev who was causing issues.
Okay. But yeah,
But yeah, margin wise, easily the best series.
this was incredible. Like, and let's be real. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Even though the Heat were the 1 seed, they have 52 wins. There was a three-way tie essentially for the second seed, with Boston, having 50 wins. So 2 wins out. But we saw teams sitting players and whatever. So that mitigated some of that, like Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown sitting. In terms of talent for talent wise, if we were to like rank the players talent for talent wise, this is a complete mismatch. The Boston Celtics have a more talented roster between the starters and the bench, but I truly believe so. Between the starters and the bench, especially considering that the Miami Heat, they were reliant on people like Max Strus, undrafted players who nobody knew at all coming into this year.
Don't disrespect Struz.
The Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, hell, Duncan Robinson just did not play this series essentially. So because he was a liability defensively, he just couldn't take the heat out there. Tyler Hero, in game 3 or 4, I think, pulled his groin and didn't play at all until
That was a
essentially the
killer.
first half of game 7.
That was a killer.
But yeah, Bam Adebayo once again, like he's shown he wasn't bad, but he's shown he cannot be a second best player on this team. Like in reality, I look at him, he's a good third option, but like as a second option, no. But Jimmy Butler, it's time. Obviously, this is not it's time people stop disrespecting him, because the reason he gets discredited because people are trying to compare him to guys like Kevin Durant and LeBron or whatnot. He's not them, but he has proven he's a great player. He was not as talented as them at all, but he's elevated himself to a point where now there's no BS. He's shown he can be a legit number 1 option on the team, and we seen him elevate his game to levels where people like LeBron and KD, where we see them in big moments, he's done it more than once and consistently elevated to such a severe, like, transcendent level in these games when he turns into Jimmy buckets. Like, it's incredible. Obviously, it takes a lot more out of him to do it, but you got to give him the credit for it. Like, the man literally took this Miami Heat team on his back going into that game 7. A lot of us thought that after game 6, after those heroics, he was gonna like have a bad game, like a cold game. Cause like as we seen him do like in a bubble, like 'cause again, he's not that talented. So like it takes a lot out of him for him to ascend to that level. But for him on a bad knee too, to back it up again with like 35 points, that was incredible. And he did not sit down on the bench at all in game 7. He played all 48 minutes on a bad knee. Like Jimmy Buckets, he's one of the most clutch players in the league. He deserves respect. Obviously, I still don't consider him a top 5 player. I'm not going that far. But I think it's fair to call him a lock top 10 player. Like if I had to rank it off the top of my head, he would be somewhere from 8 to 10, somewhere in that range. And he was doing it on both ends of the floor. Like that was incredible.
Um, it's hard for me to break down the definition of clutch um, when it comes to Jimmy Butler, because when I think of clutch, I think of moments, especially with Damian Lillard being one of the first people to come to mind, where it's just
Mhm.
the very last second big game shots. But that's not
That,
necessarily what clutch
that
has to be,
yeah,
because
like that's definitely a part of it. Don't get me
that's a
wrong.
smaller picture, though. Like the bigger
Yeah,
picture is being able to be
I,
aware
I,
that your team is mismatched and be able to overcome and realize that you need to play 200%
yeah.
to have any chance of your team advancing.
Yeah, my overarching definition of clutch is stepping up your game, elevating your game to another level when your team needs you to most.
Yeah.
Like I
Uh,
think that's the easiest way to sum it up.
And because the big word I was going to use with him too is resilient.
Absolutely.
I want to say that Jimmy Butler is the embodiment of the quote that hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. Meaning
Hmm.
that you have guys like James Harden, Kevin Durant, who might have these ridiculous builds where, or this gift of shooting where lights out at any given moment. I don't know, but like with that's very natural to them, and that's not necessarily Jimmy's
Yeah,
game style, but like he can kind of pick his own game style as he goes along. And
exactly. Like
just solely off of the work that he's putting in, because those guys might put in half
and
the
IQ
effort, where he's putting in double the effort to try to make that to
and
work. Yeah.
and IQ as well.
So
And just to paint a even bigger picture to reemphasize that, if we were to look at the guys in the league who are just talented as the most talented, like in terms of like who have natural gifts for the game of basketball, Jimmy's probably not even top 15.
hmm so
So it's phenomenal.
you want to talk about one person in the NBA in terms of work ethic that's similar to a Kobe Bryant. And I'm not making a comparison. Like I've already said, I hate comparisons. But
Yeah.
it's when you see someone, because like Jimmy already showed that example in Timberwolves when he decided to take a bunch of
Mm,
bench players and burn the entire starting squad um, by himself. Um, it's the passion that, I don't know. Like I said, I won't connect him directly to Kobe, but when you see that much passion in a player who cares so much,
mm.
usually nothing's going to stop him in terms of drive and trying to reach his ultimate goal. So I
Yeah.
think that's someone who has that more than almost anyone else in the NBA.
And the thing is, and it's not even just like we see a lot of people just do it with the scoring, but his energy is not just coming in offense, it's on both ends: perimeter defense, transition defense, post defense, hustling for rebounds. Like, did you see that one play like last night when like the ball would look like Miami was about to get a turnover, it was going out of bounds. Jimmy snuck up behind Marcus Smart, jumped in the air and like threw and grabbed the ball and threw it at his feet to get
Yeah,
another
that was
possession.
incredible.
Like exactly.
Yeah.
It's little things like that that like we take for granted, but like it really is incredible. It matters. It shows the passion and the effort you're putting out there. And like when you see your leader doing that,
Wait,
it
wait, wait.
really
What
does
play?
motivate your team.
Which play?
Huh?
Which play were you talking
When
about?
when Jimmy saved that ball from going out of bounds. Like the ball was like it was about to be a Miami Heat turnover, like while they were on offense, and Marcus Smart, like he was trying to box everybody out. He was gonna let the ball go, but Jimmy snuck up behind him. He got the ball. He caught the ball midair out of bounds, and he threw it at Smart's feet to like
I
get back the possession.
I only asked because for a second I thought you were describing the Drew Holiday play where he snatched it out of the air and threw it off Marcus Smart,
No,
and
no,
I
no,
was
no,
like,
no,
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 that
no,
was Drew Holiday.
no, no, no,
Okay.
no. But yeah, but I will say I was disappointed in that last shot that Jimmy took.
I'm not.
Um, well, here's the thing. I understand what people are saying. Like Jimmy's been playing so well for you offensively. Like it was essentially ride or die with him because the Heat roster was hurt too. Tyler did not come back and play. Kyle Lowry had a hamstring injury. Even Max Strus. First of all, at some point he was like what, like over 16 in the series from three.
Yeah.
Um, Jimmy did not have the help he needed offensively. So like at that point with him being hot, the Heat they obviously even Eric Spoelstra said, you know what, we were just going to believe in him. We'll live with the results. My thing is this: I don't think he should have went and pulled up for that three right there. Part of it being Jimmy's not a great 3 point shooter. I'm sure his 3 point percentage was low this year. In fact, on one of those big 40 point explosions he had, he didn't take or make a single three, which honestly is incredible. I think with Al Horford backpedaling like that, Jimmy should have what's it called went to the hole and like finished that or gotten to the free throw line to like tie it up or maybe drawn an and one. May but I do hear what other people are saying that maybe he didn't want to risk going into overtime because he did not think one, he already played 48 minutes.
Yeah.
So like he would have been at a disadvantage, and he did not think like with his injured roster they would have been able to keep up with the Celtics in the overtime. So I understand that, but I think he could have done something different. And even like while Horford backpedaling, like they had 17 seconds on the shot on the clock. He didn't have to like just stop and pop like that. Like I think he could have set his feet well, like got himself like stationary in good position for proper shooting form as well. Like I think he rushed that play essentially. I think he could have made something else happen, but that's the only disappointment I have.
Um, it's tough because to me, when breaking that down, the biggest thing that's always important to me is that you try to find the most wide open shot. And
Mhm.
to me, in that very moment, I think with the way the Celtics defense was playing, before that
Mhm.
defense got set, that was probably one of the most wide open shots you were going to get. Um,
Yeah.
so I think his perspective was, I don't think I'm going to get a better look than this, and I have a chance to send them home because this is the lead right here.
Mhm.
And he missed it, and obviously that was the end of the series. But I don't have a problem with the shot just because it was open, and I think Jimmy's a good 3 point shooter. I think that he wasn't performing well in the series in general.
Yeah.
I'm not saying great. I think there's a difference between good and great.
Yeah,
Like
I think he's a decent 3 point shooter. Decent.
yeah, I would say he's at the threshold between decent and good, as in like pretty
Yeah.
good, pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, so and he's your best player. So it's like I had no problem him green lighting that. My perspective is though, with the going to the whole thing is I think that your decision should have been either take the three and try to take the lead and defend on the last shot, or hold it out for the last shot in general to tie the game and go into overtime. And I know he didn't want to go to overtime, but at the same time, like I don't know, if he goes to the hole there, there's 9 seconds left, and you're giving the ball to Jason Tatum, who I'm not saying is necessarily clutch yet, but he's definitely capable. And you also have Jaylen Brown to fall back on, and you can't cover them both. So I'm
Hmm.
assuming between those two and a timeout, I'm pretty sure they're going to probably find an open shot and probably win the series. So
Hmm.
it's tough. I don't know.
Gonna say what's it called? Jimmy Butler. Outside of Giannis, like he was the best player in the Eastern Conference this year.
I think I think if we're talking about the top performances in general between both conferences, I think it goes
I'll go Luca.
Luca, Giannis, and then Luca, Giannis, then Jimmy, and then
Yeah.
and then probably fourth would be well
I'll
Ja
put
before he got hurt, but
yeah Steph, I guess.
in my opinion it's Ja or Embiid before both of them got hurt. They were both killing it, but
Yeah, that's true.
and then obviously Jokic would be an easy answer in terms of stats, but he only played one series and got eliminated right away.
Yeah. But overall in this series, like, and I will say Jason Tatum, we did, I'm just to be objective, we did see Jimmy, he did have like three really bad games, like super bad games where he was like only 10 points, didn't take many shots, he wasn't aggressive. Um, but we also saw Jason Tatum, as we've seen before, go super hot and cold as well. But with this Heat team, they clearly needed Jimmy to have those heroic performances for them to compete with these Celtics, as
Yeah,
we saw. Whereas Tatum, he doesn't have to be special for them to compete.
it was the same for Giannis. You could tell that Giannis needed to
Yeah.
have these crazy games to have any chance.
Yeah, but overall, like I'm heartbroken and stuff, but I have to live with it. Respect to the Boston Celtics because they were a tough team, and objectively, these were such great basketball games to watch. Like amazing.
They had 30
Um,
more rebounds in the total series, by the way. The Celtics.
yeah, I could chop up like as to what the Heat need for next season, but that should be safe for another segment. But I just want people out there to just give Jimmy Butler the respect he deserves. Like seriously, he needs to be recognized. He's shown he can be a number one option because we've seen other guys in the league who actually perform and reach this stage and perform significantly worse than him and not consistently put up those heroics on that level back to back, but still get credit just because we see their talent and they're fun to watch in the regular season. Enough of that. Jimmy is a lock top 10 player, in my opinion, and he deserves that level of respect.
Um,
He's a great he's a great basketball player.
I agree. But I want to throw out there, just because I'm usually a hater of most Boston sports because it is the New York rival. And obviously you're a Heat fan and they just beat the Heat. So I want to give some credit to a couple Celtics players who probably
Al
don't.
Horford.
Well, Al Horford's an easy one. Also one that I missed on the previous video when talking about the other rounds. I want to give Grant Williams some credit because
Oh,
he guarded
absolutely.
Giannis very well.
He shot lights out in the second half of that
Shot
game
lights out
seven.
as well. And then the other big one is Marcus Smart because he.
Thank you, Marcus Smart. You gave the Heat a fighting chance last night.
Um,
Oh my god.
but Marcus Smart is the third person of that big three, and I think a lot of the times, usually the butt end of a joke whenever Celtics fans or lose a game, I think that usually Marcus Smart is at the forefront. Sometimes rightfully so, and sometimes not. Obviously, the one game against the Bucks where he had the ball thrown off of him, I don't think any player in the NBA would have been able to stop that. No one's just going to catch that ball as it's getting thrown off of him. There was nothing he could
Yeah.
do about that, and obviously he had a wide open lane. No one saw Drew Holiday just come out of nowhere and take it from him.
Yeah.
It's more the comeback where he got stripped on the ball, and the second part of that. But Marcus Smart is a great player who maybe 4 years ago we were all talking about only because of flopping, and now he's come to be a point guard who averages 20 points a game and is very dynamic in terms of defense, pick and roll, and just ball movement in general. Very unselfish player. So I think he deserves credit because I think a lot of Celtics fans hate him too, but it's like he deserves a ton of credit too. I don't think they would have been there without him. It's not just Tatum and Brown. It's more than that. And the same goes for Horford, Grant Williams, and Robert Williams too, who's been a phenomenal rebounder for them. But good for them. They got a lot of talent, and I think that it's a lot of young talent. But it should be an interesting series against the Warriors. Did you want to talk about predictions in that, or did you?
No.
You want to save that? All right. So without further ado, that's what we got. We're going to talk about finals predictions in another video. Hope you all enjoyed. Do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, everyone. I hope you enjoy these vids.
All right. Without further ado, hope you all have a phenomenal day and a phenomenal week. Family, friends, love, whatever you got going on, sports. Have a good one, and we will see you later.
To me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you, I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I I trust you, I love you, won't judge you.